Real stories of werewolves, of Dogman history, from your emails, illustrated and animated with the democratizing magic of machine learning AI. Welcome to Scary Stories.
It was a crisp autumn night, maybe 11 p.m., and I was cutting across the back end of grandfather's property, a route I'd traveled 100 times before. The moon hung low and heavy, casting long shadows through the skeletal trees. I was carrying a flashlight, but its beam seemed swallowed by the dense woods, creating more darkness than light. That's when everything stopped. 30 yards ahead, partially obscured by a massive oak, something moved. Not like a deer, not like anything natural. My brain registered the shape before my eyes could fully comprehend it. Something humanoid, but distinctly not human. Hunched, massive, covered in a matted, dark fur that seemed to absorb what little moonlight existed. We saw each other simultaneously. The creature went absolutely still. So did I. Then it began its warning display. Slowly, deliberately, it rose to its full height, easily 7 feet tall. Its shoulders rolled forward, muscles rippling beneath that fur. One hand, no, not quite a hand, a massive appendage with something between a paw and a human-like grasp, scraped against a nearby tree trunk. The sound was deliberate, predatory, a clear message. I see you, and you do not belong here. A low, guttural sound emerged, not quite a growl, not quite a howl, something in between that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. My flashlight slipped from my suddenly numb fingers, clattering against the forest floor. We remained locked in this primal standoff. Me, a small, fragile human. It, a creature that seemed to bridge some impossible line between myth and terrifying reality. Then, as suddenly as the moment had crystallized, it melted back into the darkness, leaving only the faintest impression that anything had been there at all. Section 1. Introduction. Roots of Isolation. 2. 3 minutes, 300-400 words. The Allegheny Mountains hold secrets that most folks from Pittsburgh or Harrisburg would never understand. Our family's property sat nestled in a quiet hollow near Cambria County, where the dense Pennsylvania woodlands seemed to breathe with a life all their own. This wasn't just rural. This was the kind of landscape where local legends whispered about more than just deer and black bears. I was 23 when I moved back to care for my grandfather, a man whose roots in this land ran deeper than the oldest white pines on our property. Our farmhouse, a weathered structure that had survived generations of harsh Appalachian winters, stood reminding me that our family's stubborn connection to this landscape. The locals knew our name, knew our history, and knew that strange things happened in the woods surrounding our land. Western Pennsylvania isn't just geography, it's folklore, it's industrial history, it's unexplained phenomena. Native American stories, coal mining legends, and generations of hunting tales all converged in these mountains. My grandfather had heard stories from his grandfather about creatures that move between worlds, about portals hidden in rock formations, about something more than just wildlife watching from the tree line. Caring for him was a delicate dance of medical routines and unspoken understanding. He'd been a coal miner, then a local mechanic, a man who'd seen more than he'd ever admit. His oxygen tank would hiss softly as he'd occasionally drop cryptic comments about what lives in the woods, always with a knowing look that told me he knew far more than he was saying. Our nearest neighbor was miles away, and the isolation was both a comfort and a constant reminder that in these mountains you're never truly alone. Something always watches, something always listens. Little did I know that these years of quiet observation were preparing me for encounters that would challenge everything I thought I understood about reality, about family, and about the thin membrane between what we accept as normal and what truly lurks just beyond our perception. The land remembers, and some stories are never meant to be fully told. Section 2. First encounters. 3, 4 minutes, 500-600 words. The first time I truly understood something was different about our land happened during a late autumn evening. Most encounters with the Dogman weren't dramatic Hollywood moments. They were unsettling, almost mundane in their regularity, which made them all the more terrifying. I'd been out checking the perimeter fence, a routine task that became increasingly complicated by these ongoing encounters. The creature wasn't hunting me. It wasn't attacking. It was observing, studying, marking territory in a way that felt more intelligent than any wild animal I'd ever encountered. That first clear sighting came on a gray November evening, the kind of twilight where shadows blend and reality feels elastic. I was maybe 200 yards from the house, walking the fence line, when I saw it standing perfectly still between two massive hemlock trees, not hiding, not running, just watching. It stood about 7 feet tall, covered in a matted dark fur that seemed to absorb the remaining light. The proportions were wrong, too tall to be human, too upright to be a bear, with a muscular build that suggested something beyond natural taxonomy. Its eyes reflected something that wasn't just animal intelligence. There was calculation there, recognition. These encounters became a weekly ritual. 4, sometimes 5 times each week I'd catch a glimpse, sometimes at dusk, sometimes in the pre-dawn darkness. Always the same area, the back western section of our property where the old logging trails cut through dense forest. My grandfather knew. I'm certain of it now. Those moments when he'd look out the window, then deliberately turn away. He understood something I was just beginning to comprehend. This wasn't about fear. This was about coexistence, about some unspoken territorial agreement that had existed long before I arrived. The locals had stories, of course. Hunters who'd whispered about strange tracks. Old-timers who spoke in hushed tones about creatures that moved between the mountains like shadows. But these were more than campfire tales for me. These were my lived reality. What struck me most was the creature's consistency. It never approached the house, never threatened directly, just maintained a persistent presence at the edge of our world, a boundary keeper of some unknowable territory. My grandfather would sometimes mumble fragments that now seem like deliberate breadcrumbs. "They've been here longer than us," he'd say, or "some lands have their own rules." At the time, I'd dismissed these as the ramblings of a sick old man. Now, I understand they were warnings, teachings. Each encounter left me with more questions than answers. Was this a creature of this world? Something that had always existed in these mountains? Or something else? The Pennsylvania wilderness has always been a place of transition, of hidden spaces between what we understand and what remains unexplained. Little did I know these weekly encounters were just the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything I thought I knew about reality, about family, and about the thin membrane separating our understood world from something far more complex. Section 3. Living with the Unknown. 2, 3 minutes, 350-450 words. Coexistence with the unexplained isn't something you can prepare for. It seeps into your daily life like a persistent fog, changing everything without dramatically altering the surface. My routine became a delicate dance between normalcy and the extraordinary, caring for my grandfather by day, navigating these supernatural encounters by night. The psychological weight was subtle but constant, like carrying a secret that simultaneously terrified and fascinated me. I started documenting everything. Notebooks filled with meticulously detailed entries, date, time, weather conditions, precise location of each sighting. not out of scientific curiosity, but as a survival mechanism. If I could understand the pattern, maybe I could understand the creature. The isolation amplified everything. When your nearest neighbor is miles away and your only companion is a failing grandfather, these encounters become your primary relationship with the outside world. The Dogman wasn't just a mysterious creature. It was my most consistent connection to something beyond our quiet, confined existence. My mental landscape shifted. Normal became relative. I found myself anticipating encounters, almost looking forward to them. Not from fear, but from a deep, primal curiosity that defied rational explanation. Each sighting was a reminder that our understanding of reality is frustratingly limited. Grandfather's health was declining, but his awareness seemed to sharpen when I discussed the encounters. A knowing smile, a cryptic comment. "Some lands choose their guardians," he'd say, his oxygen machine punctuating his words with mechanical precision. The creature never threatened directly. Its presence was more like a territorial marker, a constant reminder that we were guests in its domain. Some nights, I'd catch its silhouette watching from the tree line, a sentinel of some unknowable boundary between our world and something else entirely. My social life disappeared. How do you explain these experiences? Who would believe a story about weekly encounters with a creature that defied biological classification? The isolation became both a shield and a prison. But here's the truth that kept me grounded. Every encounter, every unexplained moment was teaching me something profound about perception, about the mysteries that exist just beyond our limited understanding. The Dogman wasn't just a creature. It was a portal to a deeper comprehension of reality itself. Little did I know how much these lessons would prepare me for the transformations that were coming. Section 4. Inheritance and Investigation. 2. 3 minutes, 350-450 words. Grief does strange things to a person. When my grandfather passed in the spring of 2002, I inherited more than just a piece of land. I inherited a mystery that had been quietly brewing for generations. The house felt different immediately, emptier, more exposed. Without my grandfather's presence, the property seemed to exhale decades of accumulated secrets. I knew what I had to do. Security cameras became my obsession. Not just a few strategic points, but a comprehensive network that would capture every inch of the property. I researched military-grade surveillance systems, consulted with tech experts, spent every penny of my inheritance creating a digital fortress of documentation. Each camera was a declaration, a challenge. "Show yourself," they seemed to say. Prove what I've experienced wasn't just a product of isolation and imagination. The installation was methodical. I knew the creature's patterns. The western tree line, the old logging trail, the area near the broken fence line where encounters had been most frequent. High-resolution cameras with night vision, motion sensors, infrared capabilities. I was leaving nothing to chance. My motivation wasn't just proof. It was understanding. What was this creature that had been a constant presence during my years of caring for my grandfather? What unspoken agreement had existed between it and my family? The irony wasn't lost on me. After years of weekly encounters, the moment comprehensive surveillance was installed, the Dogman vanished completely. Not a trace, not a single unexplained movement or heat signature. It was as if the cameras themselves were a boundary, a technological ward that separated two worlds. The creature that had been so boldly present now became absolutely, completely absent. Some might see this as closure. Personally, I saw it as another layer of the mystery. Whatever lived on our land wasn't just a creature. It was something that understood boundaries, something that could choose to be seen or not seen at will. My grandfather's final gift wasn't the land. It was the understanding that some mysteries are meant to remain just that, mysteries. Some stories aren't about resolution, but about the journey of understanding itself. The cameras remain, watching, waiting. But will the Dogman ever return for his close-up?
Please thank our EPLIB. He's a very nice gent, you see. Please join me in thanking Long Island Bigfoot for making this episode possible. LIB is a channel member who has a cool channel of his own that you will want to check out. As a channel member here, he is going to get to see our latest new secret episode this week. To explain more about that, here's our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank?
Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.